recorded edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas, and let's see, I got one more thing to do here. Let me do this and get everything started here. Missed one thing here. We'll get that in a second. My guests today are Matt Presti. Matt, say hello.
Good morning, everyone.
And Robert Otte. Did I pronounce that right, Robert?
Yeah, close enough.
Okay. We met at the Tesla convention. One of the better things, and by the way, just for our off-the-air chat there, I'm not unhappy at all about the way things went. Matter of fact, I'm relieved.
Recorded live.
Okay. You just told me off the air that the speakers there for this conference here wasn't they were really screwed up by the sound guy that was there working for Tesla Tech.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, I've already heard that some of the DVDs of the presentation, they're missing the sound, and then it's real low and it's real high, and there were an enormous amount of distractions. So I think that was the major downfall of the conference was the sound man and his son. There were two of them working together, and there's just endless distractions, and those things, this requires concentration. These kind of subjects are deep, and you don't need to keep getting distracted. And fortunately, that was what it was. That was the modus operandi of the entire event.
Now, you guys weren't speaking there, were you?
No.
Okay, and what the subject matter that we're going to discuss here is Walter Russell, the science of Walter Russell.
Right.
And I've put up on my website that he talks about the electric universe as opposed to the physical universe.
As opposed to the old ideas of Newton and Einstein with an inward pulling gravity. So Walter Russell authored the first electric universe paradigm, but it was great to see David Talbot and to hear the electric universe side of the story. But even those folks, Wallace Thornhill and the people that are basically debunking much of the academic problems related to this false understanding of gravity, even then they are just looking at the effects. Whereas Walter Russell authored a cosmology which shows the causes, and it's based on sacred geometry, which is all provable. So we have a highly advanced and superior form of looking at the universe through physics and cosmology, which was created by Walter Russell, and we're just hoping as many people can come on board and start seeing the full range of what's happening rather than just the effects. We need to look at the cause and the effects.
Now, how does he differ, Walter Russell? How does this electric universe model or theorem that he developed? How does that differ from Einstein's view and our currently accepted science? And now, one of the things I think is amazing about this, when did Walter Russell live?
From the 1880s, so he was born in 1887 or something, and 1871 and to 1963. So he was, his first book that he wrote was The Universal One, and that was 1926. So he authored the original, electric universe cosmology in 26. There were some revisions made to it, but really the main difference here is that we've got this false understanding of what gravity is. Newton applied this idea that basically it's an inward pulling force, and it's not. It's stillness. Stillness controls the motions of electric rings which spin and create spheres. And so in this false academic cosmology, we've created all sorts of stuff like dark matter, black holes, big bangs, neutron stars, gravitational collapse. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all these things that don't exist, but they were created in order to make the math work, because the math is false. The math of Newton and Einstein might work here on the surface of the Earth, but when applied to high-speed conditions like the orbits of the trajectories of stars around a galaxy, it all comes apart. So they had to create things like dark matter to explain why, to make their mythematics work. That's why I call it mythematics, not mathematics, because the math has been used to create these mythical entities which don't exist here in the real universe.
Now, both of these people, Walter Russell and Tesla, Nikola Tesla, they lived at the same point in time. Science took a giant step forward at the turn of the century in that time period there.
Right.
And yet, here 100 years later, nothing's got any better. None of those things work. They everybody gives them credit for being geniuses, but nobody's using it. And I found two different people. One of them being Paul Pantone, who I trust implicitly and I love to death, and I've known for half my life. They built magnetic generators, perpetual motion machines, and another person that was just on my show last week, about an engineer by the name of Russell, claimed they built one, but they don't exist. Nobody's got them here. I can see them running in Australia.
Yeah, Lutech.
But there's nothing here.
Yeah, it seems that they're still suppressing everything. Lutech's got one, they claim, and so does Parandev, and they both claim that they're ready for mass production right now, and that they have working models. John Cyril's been working on a model also. My friend Michael Least, I think that you met at the conference, he also has permanent magnetic motor he's working on, and that seems to be one of the best transition technologies into this new era of unlimited abundance and prosperity using free energy technologies, which have been suppressed by the energy barons and the warmongers and the central bankers who have profited from this backwards physics and cosmology that we've all been indoctrinated with since our youth. And on the idiot box and in magazines and newspapers, it's just ubiquitous. I mean, they just had Einstein on the cover of Time. Once again, they wheel him out, and Hawkins and these people, they wheel them out like they're geniuses, but they're wrong. Their physics is absolutely wrong.
Now, some of the physics that's coming out, Uncle from Canada questions about, what about cold fusion? You got any comments on a cold fusion? Is this a different type of technology? Frankly, I don't think the nuclear power plants are the answer to our energy problems. I think the energy problem, everybody ought to have a magnetic generator in their garage and not pay anybody anything.
Absolutely, we're totally with you on that. And nuclear fusion is a disaster. It should every one of those should be shut down immediately, and cleaned up. And the thing that's even worse, that they're wasting all this money on, the Hadron Collider, all these particle accelerators, and that they're pushing towards nuclear fusion, which is just a theory. They believe that the sun is a nuclear fusion furnace, which it is not. It's an electric plasma ball. It has nothing to do with nuclear fusion. And yet they've wasted something like $48 billion on trying to create these tokamak fusion reactors based on the false theory of a nuclear sun. So when they fire these tokamaks up, they kick out so many neutrons that all the metal in the entire reactor becomes radioactive. So they have to disassemble the entire reactor and bury it. That's how lost in the wrong direction, modern physics is going.
My question for the last couple of weeks, as thinking about the nuclear disaster in Japan as well, is who's making all the money and how many Indians have died mining uranium, and how many where's all the money going to pay for these thousands of nuclear weapons that we've got stored under mountains like right there in Albuquerque?
Right. Who's profiting off of that? The warmongers. The people that make money profit from making war. They've forced this country, I mean, especially ever since Reagan. I remember Reagan started escalating the entire war machine at the very time we should have been deconstructing it, and using the money to, do productive things for this country rather than keep us slaved into going out and murdering millions of people for oil and for domination, for hegemonic domination of this planet.
Well, I pointed out many times on this show that Obama's idea of greening America, you know, the kind that's okay with the mainstream media, is to sell the top of that mountain to an international conglomerate, put a bunch of wind generators made in China up on top of the mountain, send the electricity down the hill to the power company where they can sell it to you with 3 or 4 levels of profit built in.
Right.
My idea of greening America is putting a wind generator or solar unit on your roof and a magnetic generator in your garage and not pay anybody anything.
Exactly, and you've made a very good point. You know, what we really need is point-of-use machines like implosion turbines, permanent magnetic motors, solar stuff. So although solar is very weak, really what the way to solve this would be with permanent magnetic motors and implosion turbines, something like, you know, Victor Schauberger created. And our leaders are constantly talking about the terrorists and all this, and being strong against the terrorists, and how do we protect our... Well, the central generation of power is one of the stupidest things imaginable, because a terrorist can come take out a whole plant and then everybody's out of power. But if everybody has their own power production in their home, we could use the grid to, first of all, be safe, and then sell the energy back to industry, which could buy it from homeowners or whoever's, or renters even, that have these machines, and then we could basically bring wealth to the people, because the industries would be buying power from the people.
That's right. We would be supporting our own industry, and we could bring industry back to America if we could get government out of it.
Right. And then, of course, the terrorists can't go out and bomb, 100 million households.
And, the reason we didn't get invaded by the Japanese was because they said there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass.
That's right.
And
That's
if
right.
we got the gun in our home, and we can use that to protect our power generation. I mean, my God, Paul Pantone's here. We get his car gets over 50 miles to the gallon, and they've tried to kill him and put him in prison and put him in an insane asylum 3 times. That's why, folks, I have geek connections to Geek International all over my website. This is one way to strike back at these power mad power mongers. I feel like Anthony Hilder.
Power mongers, yeah.
That's exactly what they are. They refine the art of slavery.
Yes.
To the point the slaves don't know they're slaves. Now, let's get back to Walter Russell. This is, how are you guys putting how does his theories fit in to what we've been talking about, independence, energy, and self-sufficiency? To me, that's a goal. Otherwise, you're a slave. If you're not self-sufficient, you're dependent on somebody else to give you something.
Right.
Well, fundamentally, I'll take that one.
Okay.
The difference we have is a difference in cosmologies, and one is provable by the observation of nature. Basically, a real quick look at why Newton was wrong. He wasn't that it was wrong, but he was just half right. He watched the apple fall. He developed a theory of gravity as an inward pulling force, but he failed, according to Russell, to explain how that apple got up in the air in the first place against the so-called force of gravity. So there's a second motion that's not accounted for, and the basic understanding of the one-way Big Bang heat-death entropy universe expanding to a heat-death at the edges is equivalent to saying that the universe is an exhalation-only universe, when we can look at any body in nature and see that there's an inhalation process in all bodies of nature and an exhalation process. So what they basically did was they formulated a set of laws for the large things in the universe and a separate set for us here on Earth that are disconnected from the rest of the universe, as if we exist some, special moment in time and space that with laws that only apply to us, and the rest of the universe is a whole different set. So the two-way universe motion model, according to Russell, unifies all things and all processes under one set of laws, as opposed to having several sets for all kinds of different effects.
In other words, a unified macroism and microism, as it is above, so it is below?
Yes.
Absolutely, and the alchemists knew this as well, but this is sacred science, sacred knowledge for thousands of years held by the shaman, by the sages, by the wise men and women, the teachers, you know, and all these understandings have always been suppressed because of what it will lead to, which is independence for every human on the planet. And that's what they don't want ultimately. This is a problem that stems around what I call reptilian-brained attributes, which are like greed, lust, envy, pride, you know, gluttony, the whole gamut of the 7 deadly sins are basically what is exhibited in reptilian thinking people. And I don't necessarily believe that there's this reptilian race, you know, as some researchers point out. You know, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what we're dealing with are reptilian-minded.
I didn't think so until I saw one of them turn and change in front of me in the elevator.
Well, that's very possible. I mean, but so either way, we're dealing with reptilian-minded people, whether they're real or whether they're thinking in that way. And in other words, we're dealing with cold-hearted people, and coldness doesn't share. You know, the reason the Indians sat in circles around a fire is because they knew that if you sat in a square, the corners would get cold. So I often wonder why boardroom tables are rectangular and not circular. You know, we have to move from this hierarchical structure to a holarchy, which is a circular way of living, and that's why things worked, and why in times, you know, like the red men and aboriginals and the you know, peoples of the earth who are tribal, they didn't pollute their environments. They didn't have words for discipline and punishment because that stuff didn't exist in a circle. But it only exists when you have this hierarchical structure, whereas you know, there is a hierarchy in nature, but there's also a holarchy that is the micro and macro of that hierarchical. So we're only seeing the triangle in nature, and when we try to have these wolf packs of men who try to run the world, to be both mother and father to the world, we always end up with disaster. We've watched 21 civilizations of mankind fall one after another, and this one's teetering on the verge because man still doesn't get the idea of balance and what it means to live in balance.
I've always said that and I designed my Liberty Villages, you know, my concept for Liberty Villages being self-sufficient, growing your own food, and I designed it around the Indian lifestyle. I feel like we went in the wrong direction. We brought the European lifestyle over here instead of adapting to the Indian type of lifestyle and improving it. TP with the computer and with solar and with the wind generator on there, and you're right. It forms a natural vortex, just like you got on the top of your head here, and there's no corners for evil spirits to hide in.
There you go. Transparency. I mean,
and you know, I've never felt more comfortable than. And one of the things I would really love is to be able to go outside of my house to a central campfire and sit around a campfire and talk with people like you. That is the most relaxed that I have felt in years, when somebody built a campfire when we were out in the woods, some close.
Sure thing, and that's part of the human spirit. The human nature is to enjoy and to reflect and to share in all the things that we here experience in this world, and fire is the first form of electricity that we're able to harness, and so it's ancient to us, and it's sacred. And I think we started to take fire and hoard it, you know, just like people hoarded food in the early on. Some people had food and others had to starve. You know, and it's a shame that man has all this trillions and trillions of dollars, and he keeps spending it on multiplying his arts of war, so he gets more death, he gets more suffering, more pain, more treason, more these negative things, because he multiplies the negative in his life. So mankind ultimately hurts himself through multiplying his arts of war, and then turns around and calls it sin and evil. And then you get this groups of scientists who are godless, because no one can believe in a God who is anthropomorphic and loves one race over another. You know, but what Russell did was he dispelled this ridiculous notion of God being anthropomorphic with arms and legs, and that's why he wrote what was called the Universal Mind, the Universal One, which was his first book, trying to teach scientists that there is this oneness among all mankind, and that the hurt of any man is the hurt of all men. And until mankind learns to elevate and progress mentally and spiritually, he's still always going to have this dominant physical lifestyle of might over right, and that never produces good results. It always produces inequality, pain, fear, suffering, and all the forms and myriads of displacement that we see taking place in our world today.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment and take a call
Certainly.
here? I want to take a call from Rich Latorno, who has the land for Liberty Village. Hello, Rich.
Come on. How are you?
Hello, Rich. I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show right now, and I got a couple of guests on, but I wanted to bring you up to let you know I'm not coming up to Sturgis right now, but my plans haven't changed to try to promote this for next year on your land, and I'll be talking to you off the air about that. But I wanted to bring you up on the air and tell people about your property there, and that you're interested in doing Liberty Villages there, so people could actually get these one of these teepees that we've got up on my website and plant it right there on 3 acres on your land. Is that accurate?
Yep, that'd be super.
And can you tell somebody now? First of all, you're just a few blocks off of the main highway that runs right by Buffalo Chip, where all the bikes are. I know you're probably filling up with bikes right now.
We are.
And I've got a few thousand flyers I wanted to get. I might just shoot those up there and let you let John pass those out around Sturgis, because it's got information about the Liberty Villages on that.
We've got a few spots we can drop them off at that are friendly to us.
Okay, I'll shoot them up to your address then.
Okay.
And John, I'll put John in touch with you. He can come by there and pick them up and pass them out. At least it'll let people know about the radio show and let people know about the books. And if we can sell enough books, then I'll get the money to do it myself.
Well, that sounds great. I wish you were coming, but we'll make plans for next year and make it work next year.
Okay, tell people about where the property's located. It's you want $10,000 an acre for it, and I think that's reasonable. And it's in the beautiful Black Hills, an Indian village, right there, a few miles from the monument to the chief. There would be pretty nice, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's actually about 1.5 miles from the placard for Custer's Last Stand battlefield. Or not battlefield, it's one of his encampments while he was on his way up to Little Bighorn. There's teepee rings right behind the property that you can see, where the teepees were set. There's also, it's in plain view of Bear Butte, which is kind of a sacred monument to the local Lakotas up here. There's beautiful views of the Black Hills, and it is about 1.5 miles from the regional VA facility, hospital facility. It's about 2 miles from Sturgis. It's 1/4 mile from the Buffalo Chip, just due south. And I don't know what else to tell you.
That means we could probably hear the music from the all the major bands that play at Buffalo Chip from the property, couldn't we?
Yeah, you don't have to pay for the first concert.
All right, Rich. Listen,
everything. If you've got a good set of binoculars, you can see most of everything that goes on.
I'm going to expand the features. I've got the radio show now on libertyvillages.org, and I've got it on Thunder Riders. I'm expanding both of those, and we'll get this information out there, and we're gonna put some people there on it. I've told people we could probably do a tenancy in common. And what about the county, or what about the Sturgis? Any problem with teepees or yurts?
Well, not so far. All they're looking for is that it's a single family place. They really didn't want to see 35 families squatting on one lot. But as long as there's hundreds of ways that we can work things out.
I see this as being a rural motel with a vacancy sign and a restaurant and a coffee shop. free coffee. We'll give away free hemp coffee.
You know, the hemp festival is held in Sturgis every year. And
there we go.
Double in with everything else that goes on perfectly.
double the attraction here. All right, Rich, I'm gonna let you go and get back to my guest.
Okay, that sounds great.
Call me anytime, except between during this hour.
I apologize for that. You get something in your head and you just go with it.
All right, sir.
You take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Have a good day.
All right. That was Rich. He's the owner of the property that we want to put the Liberty Villages on. Okay, guys. Sorry to interrupt here.
No worries.
And my guests are Robert Otte, Matt Presti. We're talking about the electric universe. And
yeah, we never really got to answer the question on cold fusion. May as well address that real quick.
Okay.
Eugene Malev did a DVD over a decade ago, and he died mysteriously, of course. But he had Scotty from Star Trek was the narrator for it, and in that video, it was claimed that cold fusion had been actually replicated over 3,000 times around the planet in different laboratories. So I think there's just another technology that's being suppressed.
All right, folks, we've got 360 viewers on Blog TV, and folks, the behind me is the flyer that we put up at the expo at the conference, Tesla conference, on Liberty Villages. The man I just talked to is the property owner of Liberty Villages in Sturgis, where we want to do the first one. And Liberty Village concept is really pretty simple. Grow your own food, sell it, make your own energy devices, sell them, do whatever else it is you like to do, and sell that through a network of Liberty Villages around the country. If we don't work together, guys, for independence, for self-sufficiency, we're doomed to be slaves.
That's correct. And that's what's so important about what Robert and I are trying to do specifically, is teach men a way to understand the universe as it really works. And if we truly did understand what nature does to raise her forests into the air, say the giant redwoods or any other forest for that matter, even vegetation, she produces coolness as she raises her forests into the air. When we raise a space shuttle into the air, we produce toxic clouds and heat and pollution. So somewhere we got it wrong, and we need to understand that this is a two-way motion universe. If we can do what Victor Schauberger did, for the Nazis, he built the first saucers that our Air Force pilots, when they encountered them, they called them Foo Fighters, because they moved in funky ways that they weren't used to. They weren't easy to shoot down. In fact, I don't think we did shoot one down, but fortunately, when we encountered them, they weren't that far along, though there are some who say there's a parallel civilization forging ahead here that has this technology based on the two-way principle, but doesn't share it with us, because what it would ultimately mean is freedom from the energy machine. And we need to mimic nature.
I have said that. As a matter of fact, my next novel, which I started 40 years ago, and you can read it, folks, you can read the basis for it, called Future Past. It's on my archives page, down there at the bottom on the archives page. And I speculate that perhaps these Foo Fighters, these UFOs, have actually been here for possibly 100,000 years of a previous civilization. And I speculate that that's where their existence is, where all of our religion and history and our technology comes from. But they wouldn't tell us about it. The government wouldn't tell you about it, because if you knew, the American people knew, we got bases on the moon and we got ships that can zip up there and zip back and get you back in time for breakfast, and it doesn't